Now, before we start our discussion with respect to this particular paper, I would just like to mention as to what is the importance of discussing this paper and what is the importance of candidates who are attempting or are preparing to take up your KPSC or UPSC examination, that is your prelims, and even with respect to mains. Okay. Now, please remember one thing: when it comes to your KPSC or UPSC, your preparation or your learning is incomplete without practice. Okay. So, whoever it is, before you start your practice, or even if, before you start your preparation, or even if you've already started your preparation, please remember this: your preparation is never complete without practice. And I have said this in class, I'm going to repeat it once again. Taking or practicing a test paper is not to test your level of preparation. Rather, taking a test series or solving question papers is actually a part of your preparation itself. Please never get this idea that I am going to take test series or I'm going to solve test papers once I'm done with my preparation. No, that this is not how it works. This is not your school or college level examination. Rather, I want you to change the approach towards this particular examination. I want you to consider solving test papers as part of your preparation rather than to test your level of preparation. Now, the reason I'm actually saying this or trying to convey this message to you is that many people actually neglect taking up test series. And the reason is that they feel that their preparation is never complete and they always strive towards perfection. They always strive towards perfection. I'm pretty sure everybody should be, able to relate to this. Whenever you would have been in school or college, you would always feel that let me learn everything first. Only after learning everything does it make sense to take a test series. But again, this is not how it works. Why? Because when it comes to your competitive exams like UPSC and KPSC, there is no such thing known as perfection. There is no such thing as perfection. Rather, you'll have to optimize with the imperfections that exists. That is what is all about. Your UPSC or KPSC exam is all about management rather than trying to become a perfect person with respect to whatever the syllabus contains. Okay, so when it comes to any particular examination, see here, any test series that you take, you solve 100 questions. You solve 100 questions. Now, these 100 questions will obviously have 4 options. With respect to prelims, each question will have 4 options. So, whenever you take a test series, what is going to happen? You are actually going through 4 statements. You are actually going through 4 statements. Now, of course, out of these 4 statements, one of the statement is going to be the answer. It is the correct answer for that particular question. But there are remaining 3 more statements which could be the correct answer to some other question. So what I'm trying to tell you is that whenever you solve a test paper, you are actually going through 100 questions, or I would say you are actually going through 400 statements. You are actually going through 400 statements. And if you solve 10 question papers. If you solve 10 question papers, it actually means you have gone through 4,000 statements. Now tell me, isn't this preparation? Isn't this part of your preparation? Rather than trying to revise or rather than trying to, become perfect, isn't this going through 4,000 statements a part of your preparation itself? Okay, so I hope you're able to understand and you're able to relate to what I'm trying to tell you. Now, the other thing that I want you to understand is that if you think you're going to read everything and on the day of the exam, directly you'll walk into the examination hall, you'll sit and you'll solve the entire paper, it is not going to work out. Because once again, this is a competitive exam. It is not that you have to score more than 40% and then you are through the exam. Absolutely not. The number of seats or the number of vacancies is limited and the competition is very, very high. Therefore, you cannot afford to make even a small mistake, let alone a blunder. Not even small mistake. You cannot allow any room for any small mistakes when it comes to that day, that is the day of your prelims examination. That is why when you solve test papers, you actually get a hang of how to attempt a question paper. You have 100 questions and you have to complete it in 2 hours. You would have tried it, when you try to sit and solve a particular question paper in an examination hall, and when under pressure, when there is pressure to perform, under such pressure to perform, you will not be able to solve 100 questions. Why? Because you also have the problem of negative marking. You also have the problem of negative marking. So this actually curtails your ability to think and perform on the day of the examination if you have not practiced sufficiently. Now, of course, before your prelims exam, a separate class can be taken with respect to tips on how to solve or how to attempt your prelims question paper. Now, that is a separate video or separate class that can be arranged before your prelims level examination. But before that, you should have enough practice when it comes to solving question papers. Okay. Now, the other reason, I've already given you 2 reasons as to why it is important to solve question papers or to solve test series. The other reason that I want you to take up test series is because, once again, you have 4 statements or 4 options in every question. Now, no matter who it is, it may be me, you, or anybody else, or even the person who gets rank 1 finally, even that person will not be able to solve all 100 questions. Rather, knowing 50 questions perfectly, knowing the answer to 50 questions, like 100% sure, I know the answer to these 50 questions, that itself is difficult. So when you take up any UPSC or KPSC question paper, let us consider UPSC itself, expecting to know 50 questions out of 100 questions, that is with 100% surety, that itself is difficult. Meaning what? When you sit in the examination hall, you will not have the answer to more than 50 questions. You will not have the answer. But you still have to score more than 100 marks. Meaning what? You still have to solve 60 to 70 questions correctly. On top of that, you have the problem of negative marking. This is where you have to strategize. Because if you think that I'm only going to solve those questions for which I know the answers correctly or 100%, you cannot expect to clear the examination. You cannot expect to clear the cutoff. This is where you have to strategize that even though you only know the answer to 50 questions, still you will have to attempt another 30 or 40 questions. Meaning what? When it comes to prelims examination, minimum you have to attempt 80 to 90 questions. Meaning around 30 to 40 questions, you are going to guess the answer. For another 30 to 40 questions, you will be guessing the answer. And this is important. Now you might think, isn't it a bad idea to guess 30 to 40 questions, considering that you have negative marking? Considering that you have negative marking? No. And this is a strategy which is followed by most of us, or most of the candidates who actually appear for your prelims examination. And this you have to learn, and this will only come with practice, because when I say guessing, it is not blind simply guessing. You know, you go with, okay, first question I'll mark A, second question I'll mark B, third question I'll mark C, fourth question I'll mark D, and I'll follow the pattern for the remaining questions. No. When I say guessing, it must be informed guessing. It must be informed guessing, where you should be able to negate, cancel, or nullify options and arrive at the correct answer even though you do not know the correct answer. And please, I'm specifying this will only come with practice. If you think that you will develop all these qualities, all these abilities all of a sudden like a superhuman on the day of the examination, that is not going to work out. You are simply planning to fail. You're simply planning to fail. Therefore, learning the strategy of guessing 30 to 40 questions and still arriving at the correct answer is what needs to be done. Now, of course, not all 30 to 40 questions will be correct. Not all 30 to 40 questions will be correct. But just stay with me, just work with me here. Imagine you have 4 or 5 questions. Imagine you have 4 or 5 questions to which you are guessing. Now, I'm not saying that there's a question in which you have absolutely no idea. You may skip it. If there's a question, you have absolutely no idea. You don't know what is option A, what is option B, what is option C, or what is option D. Then you may skip it. But if there are questions where you have some idea, where you are able to narrow it down to just 2 options, or say even 3 options, I would still say narrow it down to 2 options. So imagine you have 4 or 5 questions where you have narrowed it down to 2 options. Then you have to take a guess and mark either of the 2 options that you have narrowed it down to. The reason being that even out of 4 to 5 questions, say even 4 questions, even if 3 of them go wrong, and just 1 goes correct, probability I'm saying, probability should be about 50-50. But I'm saying even if 3 of them go wrong and 1 is correct, you will still gain marks rather than lose marks. And it is not going to happen that all the questions that you mark are going to be incorrect. That is not going to happen. That is not how it works out. Okay, I don't believe that your luck is so bad and you're so unprepared that everything that you guess is going to be incorrect. That is not going to happen. So still you will end up gaining marks rather than losing marks. Even though you have negative marking, you'll still end up gaining marks rather than losing marks when you take informed guessing, when you make informed guessing on the day of the examination. But see, all of this may not make sense to you, especially if this is the first paper that you've solved, especially if this is the first prelims that you're going to write, if this is the first time that you've started preparation. But you'll have to trust us with this. Okay, when we are saying this, it is because we have gone through this. It is because we have seen others do it, and because we know that it works out, and it is the best approach. It is the best way or the surest way to clearing prelims, be it KPSC or UPSC. Okay.